Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you guys signed up and you're interested. This is going to be a great event. I'm so excited to hear her speak again. So thank you guys. A little introduction. This event is hosted by Generation Now Foundation and GrindToGrad. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Generation Now Foundation, and then Fred, if you want to talk about GrindToGrad, perfect. And then we'll introduce our speaker and then we'll get started.
Take your time.
Awesome. So my name is Gabriella Heiser. I'm the co-founder for Generation Now Foundation. Alejandra, she's also a co-founder. Generation Now Foundation focuses on postgraduate programs for first generation students. So really, we just want to help students along the way in the process to postgraduate careers. So we have a few resources up on our website. We have mentorship programs. We have events like this. We offer different things to just help people, first generation students specifically, to postgrad. So that's Generation Now Foundation. If you want to see resources or see what we have available, definitely check us out on our website, generationnowfoundation.org. Now I'm going to pass to Fred so he can tell us a little bit about GrindToGrad.
Thanks, Gabby. Yeah, my name is Fred Johnson. I'm the founder of GrindToGrad. A few of my interns are here, so shout out to Christina, Aliana, and Daniel who are on right now. We pretty much focus on making sure that Black students persist and are retained in college. We're excited about some new content that we're going to be releasing in February. And like Generation Now, we try to do that through partnerships, workshops, and really want to just keep everything in terms of what it takes to be successful in college. Just keep it real and let you know what it's really like, and try to boil it down to what you actually need to be doing and want to connect with students. So we're excited to push forward this year as our organization continues to grow, and I'm excited about our partnership with Generation Now. So yeah, I'm excited about this workshop.
Us too. So to get started, because I know you guys all want to hear the great information Tamia has to offer, just a little introduction about her. So Tamia has been a teacher and career coach to law students and lawyers for over 20 years. She teaches legal writing, negotiation, and professional development at Washington University Law, on campus and online, as well as with her executive coaching and consulting practice, Authentic Strategy Group. Before joining WashU Law, Tamia was an associate and then head of recruiting for one of the largest Midwest law firms. Students say to ask Merceman when they want honest yet caring advice on professional presence, career advising, and community building. So take it away. We're excited to hear her talk.
Thank you. All right. Hi, guys. Thanks for being here for Sunday afternoon. And I know that both of your organizations are going to have this available for people in the future. So whenever you happen to be listening to this, welcome. And I'm going to try and speak as if, we could be watching it at any time, right? And not necessarily just at the beginning of the semester like it is right now. I'm going to share my screen. I have my goofy headset on, which embarrasses my kids because I can hear better this way. And I've got kids and dogs running around. So it helps me look and hear you better. I tried the whole earbud thing and I don't know, guys, sorry. Oops, I'm gonna have you, Gabriella, while I'm talking. It says the host disabled my participant screen sharing. So I'm gonna have you take a peek at that while I go ahead and do a couple introductory remarks if you wanted to. I can try and help you talk through it if you need to know.
Okay, I think you're all set now.
Okay, let's see. Aha, I think I am.
Perfect.
All right. Do you guys see a bunch of silly pictures of people? Then we're good. All right. So I was got a chance to talk to your hosts before we got started this afternoon, and tried to connect to. I am a first generation law student, but I was very privileged to not be a first generation college student. Second generation. My parents on both sides put themselves through college and were kind of early in their families to have gone to college. And in law school, my family kind of looked at me and said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" Right? So that experience was foreign to my family. The other thing that was very foreign is being a woman associate at a large law firm when I graduated law school. Was absolutely a fish out of water. So, and I feel acutely back when I graduated law school, I was 23 years old. So I feel like being this 23-year-old we call it imposter syndrome. So if you haven't studied imposter syndrome, I see Gabriella nodding, and Fred, and your interns, I'm sure Fred, have been studying it as well, that we all, I think everybody suffers from it a little bit, but I think particularly those of us, or those of you who are the first ones in your family or in your experience in your group, are challenged by it quite a bit. So doing things like you're doing today is finding a network of people who are just even a step or two ahead of you can be huge. So I really think this is a fabulous group, both your organizations, and I'm excited to help however I can. So the reason I picked these pictures is this is how lawyers usually, and I know not everybody here is a lawyer, so I'm going to be talking a little bit from my perspective working with law students. Same thing though, if you're getting your MBA, if you're finishing up your undergrad, engineering, any of those things, even more so if you're somebody who's in STEM, because some of the STEM fields even more so aren't comfortable with this kind of online communication. We don't like marketing. We don't like thinking about it like marketing. We don't like communicating in an online presence. I was at a national sales meeting for an organization I was involved in, and the person looked at everybody, and it was a bunch of professionals and law type of professions, and said we were in sales. And we all looked at her and said, "Are you kidding? I'm not in sales. You know, I went to law school. I'm not in sales." Well, we're all in sales, right? Because we're selling ourselves, our credentials, our experience, whether to an employer, whether to clients, whether, you know, you could actually be in sales professionally, but we all are presenting ourselves to audiences all day, every day. So my passion, as you can see from the name of I'll go back maybe real quickly, just say, I named my outside consulting, I call authentic strategy, because what I really care about is that you can be strategic about presenting yourself, but you can also be really authentic. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about. You know what your own secret sauce is, right? So what makes you special, which makes you unique, which has gotten you where you are now and where you want to be. It's how do you capture that, and how do you communicate that in this new kind of professional or different professional environment that that you are in now. So that's pretty much what my goal is today. We could talk for hours and hours and hours of this, and I'm not going to take hours and hours of your time, but I want to give you some kind of things that can start and help. And then I'm happy to share with Gabriella and Alex and Fred my slides later if you want them, so you can, you know, have that to use or to share with people later too. So don't worry about, not that you'd scribble away and take notes anyway, don't worry about anything that's on the screen. I certainly can get that to you guys later. Okay, so I have in here lawyers, which I understand you guys are not all lawyers. So for that, just translate to wherever you are professionally. When I work with graduate students, mostly, I find that a lot of you certainly have been using social media for your whole lives, right? And yet all of a sudden now you're getting ready to graduate college, you're in law school, you're getting your MBA, you're getting your master's, you finished your master's, and all of a sudden people get very worried, understandably, and careful about what they're presenting to the world. So a lot of times then you over rotate and you get rid of all social media. I'm going to delete my Facebook, my Snapchat, my everything, Instagram, because God only knows what people have been posting on there, and I don't want that to be my presence, right? So what's the first thing you do though when you reach out and connect to somebody? Gabriella heard a presentation I did last spring for the American Bar Association Young Lawyer Division, and she reached out to me about her organization and this. I told Gabriella the very first thing I did, I looked at it and said, well, the very first thing I did is said, well, I really have a really busy day. I can't look at this right now. And then I went back and looked at it later the next day, and I checked her LinkedIn. She had a really nice LinkedIn, appropriate for where she is at school, appropriate for, you know, what she's been doing. Then I went to a website, now, really nice website. And I looked and said, wow, that's really professional. These guys, and Alex, you're on here too. Congratulations to you too. I said, you know, they've got it together. They're legit. I like what it is they want to do. And I emailed her back and said, sure, I'm happy to talk to your organization. So if I looked, and there's on the flip side, there's a new client of mine that is a partner at a large law firm who I'm going to be working with on executive coaching. And I went and looked, and she does not have a LinkedIn profile, you guys. Not acceptable. You just can't live your life professionally in that way. Unfortunately, you may want to. You may be somebody who likes to hide out and be under the radar, particularly if you're not sure what to say, or it's not a venue that you're comfortable in, but we just can't. Sadly, I'm going to be the one, the tough love here, and tell you just can't do that. So social media presence for lawyers. Why do you care? What should you say, and where and how should I say it? That's what I wanted to give you guys today, and anybody who watches this in the future, a little framework of how you can feel comfortable putting yourself out there in your professional presence. All right, so why should you care about LinkedIn? LinkedIn is kind of the one I hyper focus on, because LinkedIn is like the navy blue suit of social media. You're not expected to be really funky or crazy or funny or edgy or any of those kind of things, right? No one's going to post on your LinkedIn wall a picture of you at a party last weekend. You know, it's not that kind of place. So it's a pretty safe space to have your professional presence. Not only is that where people are going to look for you, but it's a safe space. You don't have to worry about getting too crazy, right? So lawyers don't have to worry about getting too crazy anywhere, but even if you're in a creative field, you can keep it pretty tailored. So it's designed specifically for career and business. I'm assuming this is not news to any of you guys, because you're the right generation to understand this. I talk to people my age and older, and they don't, they just can't comprehend that everybody has to be on it. So over 645 million users of LinkedIn in 200 plus countries. 74% of people on LinkedIn use it for research. I told you what I did when Gabriella emailed me. One of my very good friends from high school is the head of finance for a large international public relations firm. And she hires lots and lots of young accountants, people in finance areas. And she says she immediately Googles them, checks out their Facebook, their Instagram, if whatever is out there, and certainly LinkedIn. That's what we do, right? So I don't want to have you be so scared that you don't have one then. Because then what do I do if, Daniel contacts me and I'm Googling him and I'm looking all over and I know he graduated from some, great school, and I know he's worked hard, and I can't find anything. Maybe I'm a lawyer and my suspicious mind starts spinning. I'm like, it's just, there's nothing out there. What does that mean? The person doesn't have any presence at all. One thing that I think is a great boon for you guys, because you're here and you care, is that only 23% of millennials use LinkedIn. So that's 87 million people. That's only 23%, which means it's an opportunity and a place for you to stand out and be super professional and focused, because not everybody, a lot of people maybe in your college circles are doing it, but not everybody. All right, the other thing about other kinds of social media, why should we care? These were global averages through 2019. My guess is, since we've all been stuck at home for the last year, 2020, it's gone through the roof, and these numbers are even higher. But if you look at how many hours, the average person sends 2.23 hours in 2019 a day, social networks and messaging. And that's across age groups. So your age group might be, significantly higher than that. That's averaging in the people that maybe check Facebook once a week, right? 58 minutes a day on Facebook, or 53 minutes Instagram, 40 minutes YouTube, 35 Snapchat, 3 minutes for Twitter. I think that's kind of crazy. That must have been before this last cycle of news over the last year. But what's that telling you, though? That's where people are. So you need to be there, right? So you need to connect. All right, so I've convinced you all, and you were here already, that you need to be out there. What do you want to do? So the scariest thing, particularly when you're getting started, or if you're getting started and you don't have family members, big brothers, sisters, cousins to help you kind of get this going, is you luckily have people like Gabriella and Alex and Fred who are committed to your success and helping you think about what you want to say. So what's your personal brand? This sounds really marketing-y, I apologize, and it sounds really icky, and you might be thinking, I don't have a personal brand. You do. It's, what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? So what are those things? If you could list 5, and I'm going to give you some cues of things you might want to do. If you could list things that you want people to say about you. You may not have as many things you'd like to list about your professional experience yet, but there are plenty of things about you. So there are things you've been involved in, you care about, you're devoted to, you've shown success in, those same kind of things that people were telling you to put in those college applications. Now you've gone a step further. They're organizations, or what are the causes you care about? What are the things that you want to take and move forward with you in the future? I was talking to Gabriella about her classes this semester, and her classes have an indicator of where she wants to be professionally in the future. So those are some things that you can use as examples. So I want you to think about it, actually not right this second, but literally in the next few days, maybe put pen to paper, fingers to keyboard, and write a couple of these things we're going to talk about, these lists of things that are describe you and speak to you that you would like to share with people. And so I have in here Live a Great Story, which is kind of a fun little social movement thing that if you follow it on Instagram or anything, it's people posting this Live a Great Story, doing stuff all over the world, like climbing Mount Everest and all that kind of stuff. I did not climb Mount Everest. I would be a picture of me sitting with one of my dogs or something. The point is things that are that speak to you. So who's your audience? I mentioned, or Gabriella did in my introduction, that I started my first gig at the law school. I went to WashU Law School, then I practiced at a big firm, and then was the recruiting director there. Came back to the law school for a 2-year gig to teach legal writing, legal practice, whatever you call it, in your law school, or it would be, you guys get the picture, little legal writing, right? So I come at a lot of this as a writing professor. Who's your audience and what is your purpose? That will serve you well in any form of communication. Think, who is your audience and what is your purpose? So who's your audience in social media? I'm talking mostly about LinkedIn right now, but it's also going to be Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is. Even if your audience is your friends, is your key audience, who's your other potential office? So I'm going to divert for 1 second to talk about Facebook as an example, for instance. I'm a heavy Facebook person. I'm old. Yes, I get it. I'm a heavy Facebook person. My world, my gang hangs out on Facebook. They do. So both women and men. So I certainly have my Facebook friends. I have things locked down in terms of privacy on when I'm talking about things that are really in my personal life. But I intentionally post somewhat regularly public. And I post about things that I would want to be out there. Right? So things that are about causes I care about, things I care about that show who I am and show my personality, so that if somebody Googled me and looked at my face or went to my Facebook, I don't need them to see pictures of my children. Well, my children are grown now, so they really probably don't care. But you don't need them to see pictures that are the stuff that's personal to you, that's your friends hanging out at a party. But yet you could see that they might see a post about you were doing, I don't know, just something fun or something altruistic or something policy related or something that you care about. So it's a platform to get some things out there in a way that that you're comfortable with. So who's your audience? Employers, clients, whoever is out there, wherever you are if you're an undergrad and you're looking at maybe going to graduate school, I know that's a group that's near and dear to Gabriella's heart. Potential admissions offices, right? Schools and things too. They don't want to see nothing about you. They'd like to see something that fits with who they're looking for. Could be referral sources, character references. When old students of mine contact me to do a recommendation for grad school or something, I look and see what they've been up to and I look at social media. Families, friends, neighbors, those people you already know are your audience, right? People, if they're going to buy from you and if they're going to buy you as a graduate student, an employee or whatever, they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you, and they need to be able to find you. So how do you do that if this is a group that you don't have an easy entree to, right? That you're not hanging out with them. They're not in your neighborhood. They're not hanging with your family. They're not, with your friends. They're not your friends' parents. How do you do that? You want to make sure if you have an opportunity for somebody to come find you, what they see fits with what you want to tell them. So that's kind of the basis of this. So what's my story? This is the part I want you guys to do in the next couple of days. It's easy, right? Because you can refine it over time. List 10 to 15 things you would want people to know about you. And I'm going to have you separate them into different buckets. Professional credentials, skills, experiences. That might be a master's degree and you started in an organization like GrindToGrad, or it could be that you had the most Girl Scout cookie sales in your neighborhood. I don't know what it is, so take yourself where you are. Don't expect yourself to have done things you haven't. When I started law school, I was 21 years old and had a couple jobs that a typical 20-year have. The woman sitting next to me had finished her MBA and had some fancy pants job for a while and, gone to this unbelievable undergrad. And you have to take yourself where you are and you have something really special about you. So if you're thinking, what kind of things should I share? I'll tell you what I would consider to be examples of mine. Okay, so this would be an example of my story. So I've got the kind of stuff that's the resume kind of stuff, right? And I know I have 20 years on from where you guys do on this, but you've got your legal, your teaching experience. I'm a career coach, I'm a business consultant. I've got my personal clients, courses I've taught, all that kind of stuff, right? But then the other things are all things that anybody could have. Affiliations, nonprofits, issues. I just, when I originally did this slide, I was still board president, but I just stepped down as board president of a local children's service charity that reaches out to supports about 15,000 kids in the St. Louis area with everything they need to remove the barriers to, not everything, to remove as many barriers to education as we can in their schools. So that's a really cool, so that's something that I care about a lot. I'm involved in a lot of legal industry associations. Gabrielle found me in an ABA program, bar associations, things like that. Other issues I care a lot about are gender equality. I'm an introvert, so helping introverts kind of connect and get out, and supporting small businesses in our community and other communities. So you're going to have things that are of interest to you. So, oh, and interests, hobbies, personal, you won't spend a week or an hour with me without hearing about my dogs. You probably already heard about them twice. So I talk about dogs a lot, hanging out with my friends, coffee, girl power, any of those kind of things. So those are things that are, I can be consistent with, right? So I could have a public Facebook post about a dog. I mean, who's worried about seeing my dog pictures, right? So things that are in my brand are things that are authentic to me, but they're things that also tell somebody something about me, right? So I want you to think about that for you because you all have them. So you've got your story. You're going to be the same person. This is not my dog. This is my friend's dog. She did this slide. You're going to be the same person, but you're going to use different voices. Think about the voice you would do, and you guys saw this was all running around social media last summer, the same person or the same character, what would be their Instagram picture or their Facebook. I put an X over Tinder, not because I don't want you to do Tinder, it's because I'm not talking about Tinder today. So when I'm talking about social media, I'm not talking about your dating sites, you guys, or whatever sites, you guys do whatever you want to do there. We're talking about things like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So you're going to have a little bit of a different vibe or a different tone in your different social media platforms, but it's the same dog, right? So you want to be the same person. You want to be you on LinkedIn and Instagram because you want to be authentic, but you're going to have certainly a different tone. All right, so what should you say? This chart's going to be very hard to read. I apologize if you're on a laptop. Basically, the idea is you're going to change your mix of posts depending on the media platform. So an example would be on LinkedIn, most of the things you're going to post or like or share, and you guys might not post a lot yet. I totally understand that. But the things that you're going to see in people's that feels comfortable on LinkedIn is at least half, if not more, professional, about what you do professionally. So for you guys, it might not be what you do professionally yet, but it's what you want to do professionally, what you're interested in. Then there's going to be that other big clump that's community. So it could be community interests, nonprofits, associations, things you care about. Like I would expect to see Fred posting on LinkedIn or the things he likes and comments on to be things that are pipeline things for undergraduates, or communities, students of color move forward, and graduate degrees or professionally or whatever that is. I would expect that to be, and maybe Fred's also interested in, I don't know, Fred, give me something else you're interested in. What else do you like?
I love sports.
Okay, so it could be sports. So there could be, I'm going to see pictures of sports, but Fred might talk about sports a little differently on LinkedIn than he would on Instagram. So he might be talking about sports a little bit more in terms of some controversy, something that's sports teams getting bought or sold, something else that is the way he talks about it might be a little bit different on LinkedIn. And then a little bit of personal. I don't get really personal on LinkedIn. I don't even post about dogs on LinkedIn, right? So it's just, some people do a little bit more and it's loosening up a little bit. The world's getting a little more casual. But the nice thing is you don't have to worry about being personal on LinkedIn, right? It's professional, community, issue-based. And then Facebook, you're going to be going, and Instagram, Facebook maybe a little less professional. Instagram, unless you're in a business or a field where you're building your community on Instagram, like you're selling something through Instagram or something like that, or you're an Instagram influencer, of course, then it's a mixture of that professional and personal. You're going to be having more personal, less community, maybe less professional. So the idea is you figure out where these metrics are for you. This is probably around where it is for me, but it depends on what you want to do professionally and who you are, but it's all the same person. It's just a little bit of a different mix of what you want to do. All right, so I told you guys, I want you to be authentic. I want you to write it down. I want you to think about what you want to share with people. It's a good spot here to think about who are your mentors in this space. The awesome thing of a mentor is you don't have to actually know them and they don't have to actually know you. So if there is somebody, it is very hard when you're new in a community, whether it's because like some of you guys are or the communities you work with, because you don't have friends, family, whatever, or you're just kind of a trailblazer, it is very hard to find mentors, right? Mentors are hard. But they don't have to know you. I was listening to something the other day, and this woman was an unbelievable dynamo in the social media and in the communication space. And she said her mentor for like 20 years was Oprah. She doesn't know Oprah. Oprah doesn't know her. Oprah was doing things in a way that she really liked and made sense to her, though. So she studied Oprah, and she was looking at emulating different parts. You might have different people. Now, you're going to see what a dork I am because my Instagram mentor is Jennifer Garner. I like how Jennifer Garner represents herself on Instagram. Am I Jennifer Garner? No. And if you're like 20, you may not even know who Jennifer Garner is, but she's an actress. And I like how she presents herself in that space. So she's one of my Instagram mentors, right? So you don't have to know the people. You just look at somebody who's doing things in a way that resonates with you. And you don't copy everything they do, but you kind of study it and dissect it. And maybe think, what would Jennifer Garner do, right? When you go to set your Instagram, or what would Oprah do? Or if there is I don't know enough about sports to pick a person, but somebody that you think is really awesome on the court and off the court. How do they, how does he present himself? How does he impact his community? How does he care about his community? You can do that in your own space and your own scope or zone of influence. So when we think about our mentors is going to help us give us something to follow if we don't have somebody, have something or somebody that's close to you in your network to ask things all the time. So one thing when I talk about this kind of material, I want to be a little bit, I don't want to say cautionary, I just want you to be aware, is the world is very contentious right now. Our country is very contentious, very decisive. You almost can't open your mouth without making somebody mad, right, about anything you care about. So I do not want you to take away what's important to you, but I want you to think about if you want to be a one-issue person or a two-issue person, or what spectrum of issues you want to present. So if your main interest and passion and care is one particular policy interest, then yes, if it is all over all of your, I would have conversations about how are you best going to influence people on that issue. But if it's on everything, on your resume, on your LinkedIn, on your Facebook, that's awesome. If it's not, if you are a three-issue person, I would want you to represent all three issues appropriately or equally, or make sure people know that you care about more than just that one thing. I'm going to take an old example going like 10 years back, so it's not so, that could be any party, but let's say if somebody, all they had, I think of it's almost can't think of an example that it'd be divisive anymore. But let's say if they'd worked for a particular party and they'd worked for that party and done internships and done all these different things and then decided they were sick of politics, you don't want to post or have everything on your resume be about what you did for that particular party, because your resume and your background is screaming one particular interest. So just be aware and think about how you want to present yourself. Doesn't mean you have to be wishy-washy and not have any care about anything. It's just think about the things you care about and how they're represented. All right, so let's think about digging into what you want to have in your profile, because I want to leave time if you have a few questions, or if Gabriella and Alex and Fred want to tell me things that they see coming up, from people that they work with. So your profiles, we've thought about what our story is. So what you guys, you've thought about, what are you trying to sell? What are you trying to present, right? Do your profiles reflect this story? For those of you who are in law school, you've heard minimum standards, right? Gabriella, Alex, does that sound familiar to you? Basically, that means, what do I think is the least you have to have? If somebody goes to look for you, if somebody gets a resume or gets somebody contacts me and says, hey, will you talk to this young woman, Christina Palfrey, I met? Would you mind talking to her? I'll say, sure. Or I'll say, well, I'll let it sit for a minute. And then I'm going to go hop on and see if she has a LinkedIn, or I'm going to see if they sent me her resume. Not because that's a determining factor whether I'm going to talk to her or not. I probably am if somebody that I know sent her to me, but I want to know something about her, what her story is, where she's coming from, what she might want from me, where that fit is. So if somebody looks for you, I want them to be able to find you and find what you want to share with them. So who's your audience? What do you want to convey? Same thing. Who are you speaking to? So if you are looking to get a job at a large law firm, you're trying to speak to people who understand the language of lawyers at large law firms. If I were a lawyer who was trying to have non-legal professionals hire me, so I'm in an area where an individual would be hiring me or something, then I don't want to use too many fancy legal words, because that's not going to build a connection with them. That's going to separate me from them. So I want to be really clear about how I'm describing what I do in a way that would connect to who I want to write to. How sophisticated are they with a certain terminology? You guys are learning a lot of big fancy words. You also need to learn when to use the big fancy words, right? Because you want to make sure you're connecting to your audience. What type of person would they be drawn to? So if you're somebody who's in a very creative field, you might be able to get away with more in terms of your background, the color, your, I don't know, your hair, your makeup, what you're wearing, what you're doing. If you want to play it safe, the easiest thing to do, and you don't have to, so I want you to be yourself. If you're not sure what to wear or what to do, the easiest way to play it safe is to dress and look like the part, right? And I don't mean that in terms of getting rid of something that's culturally important to you or trying to look like somebody you're not. I just mean, like, if I'm going to go anywhere still after this many years where I feel I might be a little bit intimidated professionally, you will see me in a full-on suit. Because then I feel like I'm on my game, I'm good, I'm focused, I'm feeling confident in what I'm doing. I don't teach, as you see, in a well, it's Sunday now, but I don't teach in a full-on suit anymore. And frankly, last week I taught all 4 days or 5 days. I guess it was Tuesday through Friday. I taught a group of 60 law students, and I think I got progressively more casual every day, right? I was a little more in a jacket on the first day. By Friday, I was drinking out of my llama mug. So that's fine, because the first day I wanted them to see me. They were all me. It's all stuff I like to wear. It's not a suit I don't like to wear, but it was all setting a different impression. What words will they use to look for the help you can provide? Now, this is looking forward a few more years, perhaps, but maybe not, depending on what you do. So for instance, I'm going to pick on Fred here for a second, is that I would want to research and look at what are the kind of words, if somebody would be looking for what I do and what I care about with my education masters and my passion for pipeline and my passion for, helping younger students or students, first gen students or students of color through the system, what words would they use? So for those of you who do any marketing kind of stuff, this is actually SEO, search engine optimization. You don't have to think about the fancy thing. Just think about what are the words people would be searching for. If I sat down to Google somebody like me, what kind of words would I use? I want to use those words in my profiles, because it's make them, one, easier to find me through search engines, and second, make them connect to me when they see it, because what they're looking for, what they expect to see then, is in your profile. So whatever those terms of art are, and I don't know all of them in many, many areas. So you want to be at a couple layers. I want the one layer where if I don't know anything about what Gabrielle's interested in international business, that she describes it in a way that I could tell somebody, I want you to meet this woman I know, and she wants to do something in, it's like a game of telephone, something in blah, and I want to be able to describe it. Then she also wants to have something in her profile to where it's specific. So somebody in that field, if I hook her up with somebody who's a friend of mine who does IBT, they're going to be able to look and see something and go, oh, she knows what she's talking about. So it's at a couple levels for a couple different readers. What would your grandma's friend understand? And what would your professor in that topic understand, right? So they're two different audiences. How can you help them? What do they need? Be specific. I was talking to a student a couple months ago. It was right before the last time, or one of the times I did this similar program, and we were doing a mock interview, and she was going to interview for an internship at a regional hospital in the legal department. And she had some great reasons. She is a immigrant, somewhat law educated in her home country, somewhat new to this country, had some great points where that are a nice fit. But I asked her, I said, what would you tell them in the mock interview if I said, Daniel, why should I hire you? And she didn't say, we all have a tendency to look at us and say, because it'd be great for me. I could really learn X, Y, and Z from you, or I really care about this issue. She said, I want to make your job easier. I want to look at if you have too much on your plate, what can I do to help you meet your goals and to get as much done as I can for this children's hospital as possible in a day. I know I'm going to learn from doing that. That's great for me, but my job is to help you get your job done. I was like, oh my gosh, A+. That's what I would want if I'm busy, right? So how can you help that person in an authentic way? She did care about the mission quite a bit. All right, so your minimum standards. I'm going to get down to brass tacks for a couple things here, okay, about what you need to do. So if you don't have a profile at all, this is going to take more than 5 minutes. If you do have a profile, this is going to be super fast. Okay, the most important safety tip I will give you on LinkedIn is turn your notifications off for sharing changes almost all the time. So you get to it through settings, privacy, share changes, or just Google, how do I turn my notifications off in LinkedIn? The reason you want to do that is if you don't, every time you mess around with your profile and you decide to change the words or change whatever, it is blasting out to everybody in your network. It's like every time on Facebook you do a new profile picture and it sends it out to everybody. And you're like, oh, I just wanted to change it because, I don't know, I looked goofy in that picture. I don't need everybody I know commenting about my new picture, right? So turn your notifications off. If you get a new job or something you really want to tell people, turn it back on because then it will blast it out there, right? So use that strategically. Same as your privacy, all your privacy settings. Okay, picture. I know this is not new to you guys. Is your photo current and professional? If it is not, find something you can live with for now and move on. Don't not do it because you don't have a picture you like. Right now, and how any of you guys look sitting here right now on the screen, go stand in front of a wall, smile nicely, have your friend take 800 photos of you and then dig through them for one you can live with and then move on with your life. All right, so I don't like any of my pictures on any of my settings right now, and some of them are quite old, but it's not the top of my to-do list right now. So there's stuff I'm like, all right, it's fine. It looks like me. Somebody would recognize me on the street and I'm going to move on. So all of you guys, I want to make sure that you have photos on your things. All right, in your LinkedIn profile, there's a spot for a heading, which is right under, the top thing under you, right? You want to be specific and directed to what your audience will look for. So it can be aspirational. You don't have to just put college student, right? What are you, an aspiring, future trial lawyer, or, something that tells them something about what you're interested in. Education administrator committed to improving, diversity pipelines. I don't know what that is. I'm just making, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that answer would be, what that heading would be. So something that's kind of specific. I'm going to show you how to do where this is on the page, but these are just a few things that are really quick that you could fix up. If you have worked anywhere, I don't care if it's McDonald's, if you put a link on and I'm going to show you in a picture. Let me see how many screens. Okay, let me see. If you see on this, it's really small, but when I say link to the entities, there's this little icon for the association that I was just on the board of directors for, right? That's what I mean by link to entities. If whoever you're connecting to, so if you haven't, I would get Generation Now, a page on LinkedIn, Gabrielle. So when you put Generation Now on there, it's not just a blank. I don't know, maybe you've already done this, but there's a little icon of Generation Now, right? One, it looks fancy, looks more professional, it looks cool. But more importantly, if I want to search, if I go to contact somebody else, maybe they also worked at McDonald's in high school, right? So you're helping to build those connections. The computer is not connecting you unless they're connecting those entities. So if you had some really menial job at a really cool brand name kind of company, I don't care what you did. I want to know that you didn't do the same thing at Boeing as that, lawyer, or at, I don't know, at Amazon is that person who's really fancy that you want to connect with, but they're going to see there's somebody else who already worked at Amazon, also worked at Amazon. So I want you to link to the entities and your schools. Same thing with your schools. You have to play around with it a little bit because like WashU Law it's like 500 different ways you could look at it and what you want to put in. That's also going to help you because then you're going to use LinkedIn to find people that you can connect to, right? So people who went to similar schools, went to all those different places, it only works well if you've made a point to connect properly. Okay, contact information. How do you want them to reach you? Because we don't use, I'm sure you guys have resumes because everybody told you to do a resume and you still have it. You're rarely going to use it. Unless you're applying for a specific position, you're not losing your resume any much anymore. Think of LinkedIn as kind of your professional resume. So what's your contact information? A vanity URL, what that is, guys, is right at the top on LinkedIn. You can change what your LinkedIn link is to your name. So it's not Christina 167532, exclamation point, or whatever the computer generates. So change it to your name or your company name, or, Gabriella Generation Now, if let's say what you were trying to do professionally when you finished law school was this organization full time, I would just change it to your name, but change it to your name so that if you put it on something, your link or on your business cards or something, it looks kind of cool, right? Because it looks like you almost do have your own website. You do. It's your LinkedIn profile. So that's super easy to do. You can Google it. It's very, very easy. All right. In your own. The bonus round, which will take a little bit more than 5 minutes. So if you're not comfortable with this yet, you might be in another few months, is this about section. Oops, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture on that. The about section, if you guys have ever had to write cover letters and you sat with somebody in career services or in your undergrad or high school, or you think about the essay you had to write in high school when you're applying for college, that pitch piece kind of, that's sort of your about section where you have the opportunity in the floor to tell somebody what you're about, what you're good at, what you care about, what you want to do, what associations you're interested in, whatever that is, what your passion projects are. So take that opportunity to use it. You don't want to be too chatty, but you can be three-dimensional and it can be more than your professional interests. So also keeping in mind, SEO is that search engine optimization. So this is an area where those words you figured out that somebody is going to be looking for, if they're looking for somebody like you or something like who you want to be, you want to use those words in the about section. So things that maybe Gabrielle wants to do in the future, she's going to look for like 15 words that people who are doing, international business transactions in the area you're interested in that kind of come up all the time. And she's going to use those words in her about section. 2 reasons, again, help them find you if they're searching, or if a computer is searching, certainly. And if they read it, it's going to resonate with them. So you're building a connection, even though you might just saying you're interested in that thing. All right. So, the last thing on here is it's not an online resume. Control your story. You don't have to tell people everything, right? If you had, going back to the menial job, if you had some crappy job somewhere that you do not want to ever have to do whatever that task was again, it does not have to be, this is not a background check to sit for the bar exam, right? So it does not need to be on there. It's hard when you're early in your career, you're young, to have enough stuff to put on, right? If there's things that you've done that you don't want to do, but you can describe it in a way that fits with your story. And if there's something you're just not into that you just don't even want on there, don't put it on. The one caveat to that is I'm a lawyer, so I'm trained as a fact finder, which means I'm always looking for factual anomalies. So if I see a year or two gap, I always have a tendency to gravitate towards that and ask somebody about it. And then I spend all this time talking about the thing that they didn't care about and they didn't want to talk about, and they've kind of wasted their time with me, where I think it's awesome if you decide to take a gap year and make some money and you waited tables at 4 restaurants. You can describe that in a way that still fits in your story and not have it look like a missing year. Because then my mind goes crazy places. What you were doing, where were you, what was going on, and that's just how I was trained. And so if you're working with people who are fact finders, you could be doing whatever you're doing. You could be a caregiver. You could be a full-time, who is it, Alex has their nephew there. You could be a full-time, nanny for your nephew. And that's perfectly legit, right? There's all kinds of things you can say, but this isn't a resume. All right, so I'm going to tell you the easiest networking you will ever do. That's what we all want, right? Because we're busy. I want you to schedule 10 minutes, 3 days a week. I want you to put it on your calendar, set an alarm on your phone, whatever will work for you. It is 10 minutes. I know you have it. You can even do it while you're watching something on Netflix. You can multitask. Even if you're the most busy person on the planet, you have this. If you're unemployed or underemployed, like if you're in job search mode, I want you to do this every day. If you're just in networking for the rest of your life, which we all are mode, then you can do it just a couple times a week. During that time slot, you can do this in 10 minutes. I want you to connect or friend at least 5 people. That could be whatever LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, people that fit with the direction you want to go in your life, right? So for instance, Gabrielle reached out to me. Maybe I answered, maybe I don't. Nobody's going to think you're a terrible person because you reach out. Might work, it might not. But she wrote a really nice email, but I have other people who after these programs just shoot me a LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, you went to the program? Sure. I'll say yes to that. And if they do or they don't, not a big deal. Comment on at least 2 to 3 posts. So for those of you guys who are trying to build a professional presence, I would focus on LinkedIn for this. Somebody really, they could be super fancy, so out of your league, says something really cool. Everybody loves to see traction in their posts. You can write something like, wow, that was really insightful. Thank you for sharing. And then they're like, huh, who's that, Fred Johnson character, right? They may click and see who it is. They may not, but it's nice, right? And you're getting those connections out there. Post at least one soft social media profile, something on your bigger network, your relaxed network. Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm somebody who posts a lot on those, so I don't have to worry about that, but you want to make sure that because of those nasty algorithms that you're posting consistently. If you have 2,000 Facebook friends, but you never post on Facebook, they're not going to see anything if you do post something. They're not going to think about you when they're thinking, who do I know that does whatever it is, right? And then the last one I'm going to put number 4, which I didn't put on the screen, but I've been thinking a lot more lately, is being a connector. So as you're sitting there scrolling through your phone, and this is something I'm spending a lot of time thinking about because it's something I just do naturally. So I just didn't think that other people didn't, and it's not being manipulative or strategic. Be one of the helpers. If you're scrolling through and Aliana sees somebody's looking, I don't know, is looking for a great vet for their cat and you love your vet for your cat, be one of the people that jumps in and connects, or somebody's looking for somebody that can do whatever it is, saying, hey, I know this guy Daniel who does that. Let me connect you to. It is so easy, guys. And it really helps with building those relationships. So I'm going to make that a number 4. You can do that easily in 10 minutes. Takes nothing. And over time, it compounds to by the time you graduate, you've got this big, nice network. There's another thing somebody else told me to do too, is to scan through when you're watching your phone, or whatever. Somebody you just haven't talked to for a long time in your friends list, shoot them a note. Hey, Leon, how's it going? Haven't seen you in a long time. Haven't seen you around school. What's going on? Everything good? Or now it's so easy. Staying safe? Have you left your house? I hope you're feeling well, Are you sick of eating pizza? Whatever it is we're all doing. So that's super easy. This one, number 2, which takes a little bit longer, is to share a LinkedIn post from someone you admire. Those mentors that you don't know? And fits your brand and your goals with a long comment or reflection. So Gabriella might see somebody who's a leader in, I know you're doing your clinic, you said, is international human rights. I'm not sure if you want to do international human rights or more a business end. So if you want to do more business end professionally, I'd be looking for somebody who's maybe, I don't know, this sounds really boring, I'm sorry guys, but a leader in, international arbitration on tax between Brazil and the US. Might not sound saying it might be interesting to you, Gabriella. And so, yeah, she's like, yeah, actually, it does sound interesting. And you've been watching them because you've been kind of following the partners at some big firms where you want to work. One of them posts something, or his or her PR team posts it, at the firm. What if you forward it and tag them and say, this is a really insightful piece from, Tom Smith. I'm really learning a lot about this in class. It was cool to see it in action. He's flattered, and that gives something substantive you've said, and it's connected you to somebody that's one of your mentors who doesn't know you. So it's okay. And nobody is upset when somebody says they're smart and they're interesting or they're cool. Nobody ever. So that's fine. That's free. You can do that. They're not insulted. So if you could do that one day a week, daily would be excessive. I mean, if you are looking for a job right now hardcore, I would do it every day. But if you're in school and stuff, if you could once a week just be trolling the things on LinkedIn and find something that's interesting, or it could be even an article that you link, more people will see it if you stay within whatever that social media platform is. I'm going to start talking really fast and wrap up because I know we're almost out of time. Is that so? For instance, if you share something within LinkedIn, more people will see it than if you look at the New York Times article and share it from outside LinkedIn. All right, so your post, the last thing, because this is important, is when you're writing your own posts. If you're in any sort of professional networking job search mode, if you care or need to get something from people in the next year or two, for every post, I want you to consider your voice and your content. If it does not fit your brand or further your interests, rethink it. So when you're in the heat of the moment and you're thinking, I want to tell the world how I feel about something, if that is an issue that is part of your core and super important to you, go for it. First, think if the voice and the tone you're using is the most effective. So maybe you want to just change how you say it, but still say it. Or if it's something that you just happen to be ticked off about that day because somebody cut you off in the parking lot or something, and so that's what you want to post about, stop. So if it does not fit your brand, and I want it to be your authentic brand, so I don't want you to be somebody you're not, but if it does not fit your brand, I want you to rethink it and I want it to add value. Everything you post, I want it to add value. Is it helpful? Is it entertaining? Or is it meaningful? An example of fitting your brand is I am a dog person. I am not a cat person. Even if I see a really funny, cute cat video, I don't forward the funny, cute cat video because my brand is not a cat person. It's a dog person. So that's as simple, as you can really be, is does it fit? And if you've been really clear about what your brand is, then you're going to make sure that it fits. All right, so I think this is the last one just to have you look at is that you literally, if you want to be really strategic about this, what I wanted to do today is have you guys be the minimum that you're comfortable with what you have out there if somebody looks for you. If you want to be more aggressive about it, you're going to be looking at, and there's tons of stuff you can look at on this, is really having an editorial calendar, what you post when, who you want to go after. Let's say Fred has 5 schools that he's thinking he wants to get on tenure stream for or something, right? He's trying to strategically make connections with those 5 schools. Who fancy person do I want to share the smart thing they said? Somebody at one of the 5 schools, right? Because Fred wants to get to know them. What original content are you willing to commit to weekly to establish and nurture relationships? At your stage of the game, I would have been I still get nervous when I post some original content on LinkedIn because there's always somebody who wants to say, whatever. To say you're not smart or you're this or you're that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that yet. My original content would be more likely to be now in something that's a softer social media, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, whatever. What's the call to action you want to accomplish? What do you want people to do? That's if you're really marketing through social media. The last piece, which is not at all a sales pitch because I know you guys are in school and you probably don't hire consultants and things, is that if you wanted to, don't care at all. That's my LinkedIn, that's my email. Where I post or I'm starting to share more of my content of fun things I think are just cool or interesting is really through either my Facebook group or my mailing list. So if you want to sign up for the email list, you can. I don't care. This is not at all trying to get stuff, but when I see something that's interesting now, that's where I have a tendency to post it. And I work a lot with students and people in your world.